Alright, fair warning. This one hits different. This isn't one of those goofy history stories about pigeons saving battalions or wars caused by watermelons. This one's heavier. This one's the kind of story that makes even tough people shut up for a minute. Because today we're talking about a Navy pilot in the Korean War who looked death in the face, smelled the smoke of his own burning aircraft, heard every alarm in the cockpit screaming at him to eject, and he didn't. Because his wingman went down, and he refused to leave him behind. That pilot was Lieutenant John Crash Blackburn. And yes, that nickname was earned. This guy flew the kind of missions where not on fire was considered a luxury. Now, to understand how insane this story is, you've got to picture what the Korean War looked like from the cockpit of an F-4U Corsair. First, if you don't know the Corsair, imagine someone built an airplane out of anger and horsepower. Big gull wings, massive radial engine, a propeller that could probably chop down small forests. It didn't fly, it charged through the sky. And by the 1950s, the Navy was using Corsairs for low-altitude ground attack runs. Which sounds cool until you realize ground attack basically means fly straight at people who have cannons, hope they miss, drop your bombs, and get out before they reload. And the Korean anti-aircraft fire? Oh, it wasn't just bad, it was nightmare level. It looked like someone took every spark, every explosion, every angry noise known to mankind, threw it into a blender, and pointed it at the sky. This is the world Blackburn flew into every day. And on this mission, he's flying with his wingman. Now, a wingman isn't just a buddy in another plane. A wingman is your mirror, your backup brain, your lifeline, the guy who makes sure you don't get jumped, don't get lost, and don't die stupid. You don't just lose a wingman. It's like someone taking a chunk out of your soul. So Blackburn and his wingman roll in low over enemy territory, engines roaring, tracers whipping past their wings. The sky is exploding around them, black puffs of flak bursting like angry fireworks. Then it happens. Blackburn's aircraft gets hit. A sudden jolt. A blast of noise. Warning lights flashing. Fire creeping along the cowling like it's trying to crawl into the cockpit with him. But before he can even deal with his own problem, his wingman takes a full, catastrophic hit. Not a spark. Not a lucky graze. A direct punch from an anti-aircraft gun that tears through the plane like it was made of paper. Blackburn watches it, helpless, as the Corsair rolls, drops its nose, and starts that terrible spinning descent. The kind every pilot knows deep in their bones. The kind that doesn't end with a safe landing. He stares, waiting, searching, praying for the parachute, just a flicker of white fabric. But nothing comes out of that sky. And right there in the middle of this hurricane of chaos, Blackburn knows. He's seen enough crashes, he's lost enough friends, his wingman is gone. Now here's where the story takes a turn. The part where most pilots would reach for the ejection handle, because Blackburn's plane is still on fire, still shaking itself apart, and still very much trying to decide which part it wants to explode first. Everything in that cockpit is telling him to bail out. Every piece of training, every manual, every instinct of survival that humans evolved over millions of years. But Blackburn looks at the smoke, and he stays. He doesn't eject. He doesn't run. He doesn't save himself. Because in his mind, there's only one thought. I'm not leaving him here. Even if he can't bring him home alive, he can bring him home. And that's the moment, that one quiet decision made in the middle of a screaming, burning sky that transforms this entire mission from just another tragic sortie into one of the most impossible acts of devotion ever recorded in naval aviation. Because Blackburn isn't flying a fighter anymore. He's wrestling a flaming metal beast that absolutely wants him dead. He's got to turn it around, climb back out of range, and somehow nurse this wounded Corsair all the way back to the carrier. And if you've ever seen a Korean war carrier landing, impossible is being polite. It's a runway the size of your driveway, moving up and down on ocean waves, with the wind trying to throw you off the edge on purpose. And he's going to land on it, while on fire, for a man who can no longer hear him. Because loyalty isn't a word, it's a choice. So now, Blackburn is alone in the sky, One plane burning, the other one gone. That space where his wingman should be, right off his wingtip, close enough to see the pilot's helmet, is nothing but smoke and empty air. If you've ever flown formation, even in a simulator, you know how wrong that feels. It's like your brain keeps trying to fill in the missing piece, expecting that second plane to slide back into view. But it never does. And he doesn't even get the luxury of breaking down, or screaming, or processing any of it because his own aircraft is falling apart under him. The fire is growing. The cockpit is filling with that bitter smell of burning oil. A few sparks dance up past the canopy. Never a good sign. Now, normally, a pilot in this situation has two options. Option 1, eject. Float down into enemy territory. Hope you don't land in a tree, a river, a minefield, or the arms of someone who's had a really bad week and decides you're the reason why. Option 2, try to keep flying an airplane that is extremely, aggressively, violently done with the concept of flight. Blackburn chooses option chaos. He stays strapped in. He grips that control stick like he's holding on to life itself, and he points the nose toward the nearest impossible destination, the carrier. And look, flying back to a carrier when your plane is fine is already a nightmare. These guys weren't landing on giant modern floating airports. They were landing on what basically amounts to a metal ironing board drifting in the ocean. Now add in smoke, a weakening engine, and the fact that a Corsair handles like a gym bro trying yoga for the first time. Stiff, angry, and always 2 seconds from collapsing. That's Blackburn's situation. He calls in over the radio. The carrier acknowledges. They scramble the deck crew. They start clearing the landing area. But everyone on that ship, everyone, knows what a burning Corsair means. They've seen them come in, seen them blow tires, skid sideways, crash into barriers, bounce off decks, or explode outright. A flaming aircraft hitting a carrier deck is like someone throwing a live grenade into a toolbox and hoping for the best. And yet, no one tells Blackburn to eject. Not this time, because they know why he's doing this. They know who he's trying to bring home. Even in war, a place where everyone is expendable, there are moments where you don't question a man's motive. You just help him finish what he started. So Blackburn begins the long, slow flight back. Every minute feels like he's wrestling a beast made of fire and hatred. The gauges jitter. The engine coughs. The whole plane shudders like it wants to give up and drop straight out of the sky. But he keeps going. Not fast, not smooth, just stubborn. Painfully stubborn. And while he's flying, he's replaying that moment. The hit, the fall, the silence, the empty space on his wingtip that shouldn't be empty. You don't train for that. You don't rehearse for that. You just live it once, and it stays with you forever. Finally, he sees the ship, a gray dot on the ocean, growing bigger by the second. The deck crew is already lined up. Fire hoses ready, barriers raised, everything prepared for the kind of landing that makes men on the ground start praying under their breath. Blackburn drops his landing gear. One wheel hesitates, like even the aircraft is unsure it wants to participate in this madness, then locks into place. He lines up with the runway, smoke trailing behind him like a comet. The deck officer watches him come in, arms crossed, trying to read whether this is going to be a landing or a disaster movie. The engine sputters, backfires, coughs out a fireball big enough to make a few sailors flinch. Blackburn keeps it steady, and the entire crew holds their breath because they can feel, in the weight of the moment, that something bigger is happening here. This isn't just a landing. This is a man finishing a promise. He brings the Corsair down, hard. The wheels slam the deck. The hook jerks the plane backward, almost ripping it clean off. The fire flares up. The whole aircraft shakes like it's trying to shake him loose. And then, they've got him. The plane stops. The deck crew swarms him like a NASCAR pit team running on adrenaline and fear. Foam everywhere, fire blanketed, engines shut down. Blackburn pops the canopy. Not fast. He's exhausted. Smoke has soaked into his flight suit. His gloves are hot to the touch. His legs are shaking. But he's alive, and he made it back. The crew helps him down, and someone asks the question they already know the answer to. Where's your wingman? Blackburn doesn't dramatize it, doesn't break down, doesn't give a speech. He just shakes his head once, and the deck goes quiet, because every man there understands exactly what Blackburn just risked, and why, and what he refused to leave behind. This wasn't about orders. It wasn't about glory. It wasn't about medals. It was about loyalty. The kind that doesn't get written in manuals. The kind you don't explain. You just feel. Wingmen aren't partners. They're brothers. And Blackburn wasn't going to fly home without his. If you are still here, subscribe. Because on this channel, we are going to uncover every single war hero that deserves the acknowledgement. It's going to be a long journey. So hit a subscribe and let's uncover all war heroes together.